Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back into Infinity Broadcasting, and welcome into the SIMRIGS V8 Veterans Split 2 action for Season 28, Round 7 this evening as we take a trip back in time. We've hit ourselves at a speed limit of 88 miles per hour, and we found ourselves back in prime time, 2007, as we race around the suburbs of Sydney. And we come back to the Figure 8 circuit of Oran Park. Hamish Munro here with you, David Haines alongside this evening. As David, we've taken this trip back in time, and well, it's one that I think we've been asking for a long time coming now. Oran Park returns to the calendar. It's very exciting to be here with you.
Yeah, we're approaching a decade and a half since Oran Park was no longer, but it still exists on iRacing, and for reasons no one can quite fathom, iRacing have given it a brand new graphical update, so it's sharp in every single aspect of texture and graphics, and it looks good, it races great, and it is a little bit of history that every year is deeper in the mind, but still perfectly millimeter replicated here on iRacing.
Well, we're very lucky in the sense that we have it saved via iRacing, like a couple other tracks around the world, including Myrtle Beach Speedway and soon to be Pukekohe Raceway as well out in New Zealand. And well, at least we get to
USA
go back.
International.
Well, USA International as well, but it's always good to be able to go to a circuit that no longer exists and actually get some racing happening here, especially one that is so iconic for Australian motor racing and supercars as well. Of course, the Sydney Kart Racing Club used to race out of here, as well as the Sydney Drift Club as well, and obviously supercars used to race here too back in the day. Last race winner here came back in 2007, so nearly 20 years ago was the last time we actually ran a race at this circuit in real life. The last time Vets raced here was back in Season 6, so a good 22 seasons ago we last raced here in V8 Veterans. We will run you through the schedule, the points, and the Google Maps track splash momentarily as well. First though, we're going to hear from the man who campaigned to get this circuit onto the Vets calendar once again this season, Mr. Peter Baxter, as I caught up with him earlier today to find out what made him tick and why he wanted to get Oran Park back on the calendar with us. I would like to welcome in Pete Baxter now to have a quick chat to me about the campaign for what he has titled and what others have titled the Birthplace of Vets, Oran Park here. It is obviously a circuit that doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, as we've spoken about already this evening. But Pete, I've always been a big believer we should be here at Oran Park. It's a fantastic circuit to be at. It's a fantastic place to come to. And I know that you've been on the campaign heavy throughout the off-season leading into this season. You've unfortunately not been able to race it, but how does it feel to finally be here today, finally be at the race, and finally be ready to see Oran Park back in Vets and now in Gen 3 machinery?
Hey, Hamish, thanks, mate. Hey, look, firstly, I like Oran Park. It's a track with undulations, nice corners, a couple of blind corners. Bit tricky to get a car set up and drive around, technical, but it's a track I enjoy lapping at. So when the theme of Australian season came up, I thought, great, let's have a look at all the Australian tracks. And then the draft calendar came out in the committee room well before everybody else got to see it, and it didn't have Oran Park on it. And that, to me, was, I just guess, a logical decision. And I thought, if V8 Vets, an Australian series, is going to have an Australian-themed season, we must have all of the Australian tracks available in the calendar. We can't leave them out. And that drove me towards a campaign about putting up, starting to talk about Oran Park, putting it up, and then all the naysayers came out. So all of that gave me a little bit of drive to push on. So that, and again, like I said, that was early on in the committee calendar draft stage. The committee held a meeting. I got it what I thought to a point where Oran Park would get put on the draft calendar. Unfortunately, I had another commitment for that meeting, which meant I couldn't be there. And the rest of the committee who didn't want it didn't put it on. So that just drove me a little bit harder. And I thought, bugger it, I'm just going to put up something every day until the Giraffe calendar gets changed. And I'm going to fight for it. I'm going to fight against all of the furfies that were put up with track facts, and just continue to say there's no reason why we can't be there. And eventually, I think, I don't know, maybe it was just enough to get people to go, well, let's get Baxter to shut up and put it on there once and for all.
Well, it's the classic tale of, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and or the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and you make enough noise, eventually someone's going to turn the radio down via actually giving it what it wants. And I'm in agreement with you. It doesn't really make sense to me to have a Australian-based calendar and not including Oran Park. I mean, it's a historic Australian circuit. Yes, it no longer exists. It's the only one that doesn't exist. It allows us, though, this season to have had the only track in Australia that doesn't exist anymore, and the youngest track in Australia that does exist still in the Bend, and we've had that twice this season already. So the fact that we've been able to do that is absolutely fantastic. The fact that we can match it now, next week, with one of the other oldest tracks in Australian history, Sandown, alongside it as well, in terms of a permanent race circuit, that's wonderful too. And they're obviously two very similar circuits in how they race and in how short the lap times are. But I mean, I think Pete, even just thinking back to the final round they ever ran at Oran Park, it was an incredible race at that time, back in 2007, 2008, and I think there should be no reason why this track can't come back again. I mean, we'll see tonight how the race goes and how entertaining or not entertaining it may be, and then obviously a determination may be made. But from what I've seen through Split 1 and Split 3 this week already, it should come back, and it should come back probably once a year. I know you're a believer in that, because it's a historic Australian circuit. It is literally the birthplace of vets, as mentioned on that Split 3 broadcast by Mark Dial. I see no reason why this can't be on the calendar now as a more featured circuit at least once a year. If we're going to have the Nordschleife once a year, we should have Oran Park once a year.
Yeah, look, it's a fair argument. I've watched Split 1 and I've watched Split 3 broadcasts as well, and that's where Mark was quite open about, hey, this is where the birthplace of this whole series come up. So I think that's a really important tag that we probably should hang on to and say, well, why do we? Well, it should stay in the series. But anyway, through the races have been great races. Overtaking has been proven. People have been able to overtake at tight parts of the circuit, side by side. I will concede that the pit entry is a tricky pit entry, but Oran Park is not alone in having a tricky pit entry. I can concede that the pit exit comes out onto a fast part of the track, but as you would have remembered back from when we were arguing about it, we were arguing about it at the same time we bloody raced at St. Pete's, where we basically drove into the racing line a lot faster and in a blind manner than a lot worse than Oran Park. The track is 5 cars wide all the way around the track. The cars haven't owned ground on the track. Our current cars now, whilst they have a little bit more power and maybe some more grip, they're no bigger than the cars that raced there in the 70s in real life.
I would argue they're probably as big as the last cars that raced there. In terms of size, they're probably the closest they've ever been to the BF and the VE Commodore and the BF Falcon of that era. They're probably very similar size.
Yeah. And not only that, I mean, the short lap time, that is a short lap time that can create, for people who decide to do early pits, a strategic dilemma. Because if you do a long pit stop, you're likely to end up in a blue flag situation. So but that to me is just racing strategy of the track that we've got, right? You can't always have a 6 kilometre track where it's easy to do an early stop and you've got to have these racing challenges that come up as part of the series to make sure that we face a broad range of everything.
Not just that. I'm a believer, And I think if the more you look at the supercars calendar, you understand shorter tracks actually suit the supercar more so than longer tracks do. One of the reasons
Yeah,
I think they're going to the shorter bend circuit this year is it suits the supercars better. The Sandown often has great racing. Phillip Island is an intermediate length circuit, would still be classified as short. Winton is fairly short. Ipswich, Wanneroo, the biggest circuits we have on the whole calendar is the old layout that we used at the Bend, SMP, and then Bathurst. And then aside from
absolutely.
the
Yeah.
AGP, which we have no control over the track length of the AGP, aside from that, everything else is an intermediate to short circuit. We don't have any other big circuits in Australia other than the ones that I've just mentioned.
That's it. I mean, we're just about to go straight into Sandown, which
Yeah.
essentially has the same race lap time as
Well, that's right.
Oran Park, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that all of the things that were put up as reasons why we shouldn't be there, they were all to me people's personal reasons for saying no. I understand why we can't go to Chicago. There is an iRacing limit says you can't put more than 40 cars in there. We have splits of 50 cars plus controllers. So we can't meet the conditions to race there with iRacing. That is a dead set constraint, right? Of course, so Chicago's not going to be on our calendar. Oran Park didn't have any of that. Oran Park didn't have a constraint. All it had was personal reasons not to be there. I will say to you, I did a little bit of research about across all of the people, Hamish, and I won't use any names in the interview, but the all of the people that were against Oran Park, their average race finishes was -7 to -17 positions from where they started. So to me, it's not about Oran Park. It's actually about the results that those people have had, and they don't want to go back to what may be a hoodoo track for them. I don't necessarily agree with that. I've got tracks where I don't have good results, but we seem to go back to them in V8 Vets. That's not a reason not to go to a track.
No. Ultimately, it's not. But I think to end on a solid point. Everyone's fans of Sandown. Guess what point Sandown has wrong with it? The pit entry is atrocious. The pit exit comes right out on the racing line. It's a very similar lap time to Oran Park. The only differential is it's not a figure 8 circuit. That's the only difference between Sandown and Oran Park. Both of them are actually twins fairly easily. One's in Victoria, one's in New South Wales. Other than that, they're an identical type of circuit. One's loved, one's hated. Doesn't really make
Be careful.
sense.
I'm interested to see what people want to say in the chat now that you've said that,
we'll
we've
see.
lined them up pretty much as side by side circuits. But look, it was a campaign that I felt was worth putting my neck on the line for.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that Vets did get it on the calendar. I really hope that Oran Park does come back to play and as a normal routine track in our cycle. That I think at least once, because I want to be able to race there in Vets.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think when we're going to get tracks like the Nürburgring Nordschleife, even Le Mans, there's no reason why we should be going to Oran Park, to be honest with you. Those are eclectic choices that do not necessarily suit the supercar and are done for people to have a fun experience at. Oran Park is a very similar track choice in that manner as well. But Pete, I appreciate you coming over to chat to me. Appreciate you giving us your thoughts on the campaign, and I'm so glad that it's finally come to fruition in the tracks here with this racing today as well. Hopefully you do actually get a chance to race here in future, and you are back here with us again, but this time on board your reality fishing charter Camaro. Thanks so much. Hopefully we get to see you again as soon as the next season starts. I know you're dealing with the medical issues you've been having recently, but hopefully we see you at the start of season 29 back full firing and ready to go for round 1.
Thanks, Hamish, mate. I hope you and Dave have a good call, and good luck to everybody driving tonight.
Thanks so much, Pete. Really appreciate it. Well, it was great to hear from Pete Baxter earlier today, and great to have his thoughts as well of Oran Park here tonight. And we apologise for the overall length of that interview. Whenever Pete and I have a chat, although it's not as bad as if him and Scott Rankin had a chat, David, it can go on for a little while. But I think some solid points are raised. Obviously, the fact that this track's very similar to Sandown, where we'll be racing next week. Although, you know, another 100 extra 100 kilometres on the totem pole, comparatively to the 150 running tonight at Oran Park. Very, very similar circuits. And Oran Park, I mean, it's wild that we finally have it on the calendar. I've been asking the question for the last 14 seasons or 15 seasons that I've been here in Vets. To finally have it's quite breathtaking actually to finally have this as a regular season race.
Well, there's two things extra that Oran Park's got going for it now. It's free content and it's had a graphical update, so both of those together make it an even more enticing proposition.
Well, it's a very enticing proposition, and it's one that, you know, excites us to our core to race at as well. Looking at the current point standings here this season, we can see that Stephen Kokoschke, after the 2 drop rounds, still leads the championship, although he's not able to race due to work conditions, so he's unfortunately out of the championship. After tonight's race, he will officially be on 2 0-point rounds, which will then give us the true points leading into the next race at Sandown. It is currently between Stuart Hall and Mick Clifton on who is going to lead the championship out of tonight's race. Whoever finishes ahead of each other are going to have the better round. If both of them have a poor round, Chad Weiger, Simon Hedesheed or Scott McKenzie, they're the ones who could pounce on the opportunity to sneak their way past those true top 2 in Hall and Clifton, both who are running very, very strong seasons at this stage as well. I mean, Burns running a strong season, as is last season's Split 3 champion Matt Day. Darryl Callahan and Roy Clark inside of the top 10 of the championship as well. But for my money right now, David, looking at how the season's being run, especially at the midway point of this season, because what I found with Split 2 is, I'm not sure if it's very similar in Split 1, the midpoint of the season, the momentum, if you can carry it through rounds 4 to round 8, often whoever can carry the best momentum through that point of the season can go on to win the championship. And right now the momentum is with both Clifton and Hall. Hall, though, with the recency bias, momentum is looking slightly stronger than what Clifton is right now.
Yeah, the start of a new season can be, you know, chaotic. You've got new drivers that come in, you've got a new schedule, you've got drivers changing between splits, some drivers going up, some drivers going down, and then you reach the midpoint of the season and you kind of know who you're racing, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and it's from that point on that it begins to really, really matter and we sort of settle into the groove of the season.
Well, that's right, and as that groove comes into fruition, again, that's where the consistency will start to play. I mean, Kokoschke was carrying a whole heap of momentum, and life changes for him at the halfway point of the season off the back of Phillip Island. He couldn't continue on, and now concedes the next 2, who were the next 2 strongest in Hall and Clifton. So both those guys are ready to take the reins of that. We'll have a quick look at where we are here this evening for tonight's race, and it really fills me with pride and happiness that we can finally say we're racing for this evening at Oran Park, based out of the southwest Sydney suburbs, not too far northwest of Wollongong, as we'll move our way on towards where Oran Park used to be and what now is a housing estate. We can find ourselves at the beautiful racing circuit that is the Oran Park Racing Circuit. There is the housing estate, by the way, and that is where the track used to be based, right in for the starting line and up towards turn 1 at the sweeper and into Coca-Cola Corner at turn 2, through a couple of houses at the Yokohama, to go underneath the Yokohama Bridge up towards Shell Corner at turn 3. This first section, David, this is going to be a tough one tonight. If drivers make mistakes, end up running wide, dragging some gravel back on circuit, the bridge is all of a sudden going to be something to try and avoid if any drivers get loose off of turn 2 and possibly ricocheting themselves in towards a concrete wall.
Yeah, it's that first half of the lap that feels so challenging because the fastest part of the racetrack is approaching turn 1 and you're braking before you go into that kink and then trailing and modulating the brake all the way to slow the car up for the tight turn 2, and then the track flicks back the other way underneath the bridge, series of tight corners, constantly turning and changing direction over the top of that bridge with the elevation change, and then the elevation change continues through 7 and 8, 10 and 11, places where the track drops down, then picks back up, and there's no corner where the braking zone is straight and flat.
Yeah, well, I would argue the only point that it is leading up to turn 3, or although I suppose through turn 1 you're kind of trail braking through turn 1, aren't you? So I think really the only spot I would say is leading up to corner is 3 or 4. Aside from that, every other corner you're kind of on the brakes, either at a mid corner or as the car's starting to dip in. It's a very challenging circuit, no doubt about it. It's a short circuit, obviously, and pit entry tonight is going to be one to keep an eye on. A very tight pit entry. Drivers have been given the okay to call themselves into pit lane over the radio. Pit exit will be interesting too, coming out right onto the racing line for turn 1. This is going to be an intriguing race, and one that we haven't really got anything to look back upon because it's been so long since we've raced here. I don't even know if it was actually broadcasted back in season 6, but one thing we do know is across this short 2.6 kilometre 12 turn course that was closed back in 2010, it is going to be a special time to go racing today, and one that I think is going to throw out a whole heap of challenges to the driver's side as well. The other important thing to note too, David, is the fact that we've only got ourselves, well, no compulsory pit stops this evening. So if you find yourself with a lap 1 safety car, you could pull yourself into pit lane, get your fuel on board, put a fresh set of tyres on board, not that it's really going to make much difference after 1 lap, push on and you get yourself to the end of the race. Thinking about that though, how would tyre wear be tonight? It's obviously going to be a proper challenge to some drivers out there. It's going to be something that they're going to have to contest with as well. Early enough pit stop, your hair may be forced if a safety car is called. Do you think it's an optimal strategy to go for it under green flag running, or do you think you only do it if there's a safety car called?
Strategy-wise, you've got to treat this like it's a street circuit. Overtaking is so difficult because it's a tight and narrow track, so many corners, and even the long front straight isn't that long. You see, it's just 2.6 kilometers for this whole 12-turn circuit. So you treat it like it's a street circuit. You treat track position like it's gold. And in that case, you know, safety cars, whatever may come, you take the strategy that gives you track position, because you can hold on to quite a few spots on some old tyres if you're wise about it.
Well, this may be that some drivers' hands are forced this evening and others are not. Qualifying times are about to get finished up for these drivers as well here out at Oran Park today as well. Mick Clifton has begun his final run, but we're going to skip ahead just to see where the times ended up for the end of qualifying, and we can see where they ended up with our starting grid here tonight as well. Stuart Hall, off the back of his very first Vets win last time out at the GT layout of Shell V Power Motorsports Park, he'll put his MPI Camaro on pole position once again. Scott McKenzie will start alongside him, a Kiwi and an Australian on the front row. We'll see how that battle commences throughout tonight's race. To the second row of the grid, we'll then find Abel Verban and Tony Chapman alongside each other as well. To the third row of the grid, we'll find Rick Viger and David Duddle starting alongside each other for the top 6. To row 4, we then find ourselves to Chad Viger and Andrew Galley starting alongside each other. Row 5 and the top 10 will then be made up of Dave Arney and Todd Duggan alongside each other. In towards the top 20, we will find ourselves onto row 6 and we'll find Nathan Favero and Darryl Callahan alongside each other. To row 7, we then find Andrew Listener and P2 in the championship, Mick Clifton. A lot of work to do tonight with his championship contender, Stuart Hall, starting on pole. Clifton back in P14. That's going to be tough work for him to get that car up the order and challenging for points here tonight out at Oran Park. To row 8 and the top 15 made up of Brett Taylor. He'll start alongside Tim Mulford of Phoenix Racing Team. Row 9 and the top 18 cars, it'll be Chris Blanchard and Mario Reale. And making up our top 20 in the 10th row of the grid here tonight, it will be Paul Burns and Yusuf Korfiadis here as well. To row 11, David, we'll see how the back half of the field will do here this evening.
Yeah, so P21 on that starting grid is Matthew Munday, and then alongside him is Scott McCune. Got Simon Hederscheid there in 23rd, Halil Cesar in 24th.
I went back by mistake. That is totally my fault, David.
you gotta click next,
I know.
not back on the DVD chapters menu there. Roy Clark 25th on that grid, Michael Quain 26th. Got Darren Goosey 27th on the grid and Peter Kelleher in 28th. 29th on the grid will be Ernie Toth, Scott Weston 30th. That's some safety cars right there.
Yeah, that's our grid. So it's a short
So
grid
that's
tonight.
everyone.
Yep, 30 cars, race control making up the end of the field. And so the thing that I pointed out during the lead up there was this man right here, Mick Clifton, who is, after tonight's race, could be corrected P2 in the championship, starting down the order compared to Stuart Hall, who starts on pole. This is going to be tough work for him tonight now. Is there going to be some luck involved in this, David, or can Mick strategize this car to get forward and up the front towards Stuart Hall to challenge him for points here this evening up at the top end?
Well, it's a track that's always chaotic, so it's not impossible to move forward, particularly if your timing around a safety car is fortunate, or, you know, if there's a big off in front of you that you manage to sneak through. But once it settles into a rhythm, it's difficult to make too many overtakes on track here at Oran Park, because the opportunities are slim.
Yeah, they are slim indeed, and we'll see what happens as we'll get ready for our race to begin here this evening as well. Cars will begin to get gridded up. Now, could be a sound strategy here to actually hold off on joining the grid straight away, just to save that little bit of fuel and give you a little bit of advantage over the rest of the field as well. Obviously, we know that lap 1 is a critical lap here this evening, so drivers will be hoping that, you know, they not having to come in on lap 1, because you ultimately don't want to be doing 58 laps on a set of tyres here out at Oran Park, but that will be a factor today. I do wonder, though, if someone anticipates some danger down at turn 1. I know they put a rule in place that you can't enter the pit lane off the start line, but that rule, I would assume, David, would be for a 2 CPS race. What would the case be for a 0 CPS race? Doesn't matter when you take your pit stop as long as you get to the end of the race. Surely a lap 0 pit stop could be on the cards tonight if you are game enough and desperate enough to avoid the carnage at the beginning of the race, and maybe just to play a ballsy strategy to get yourself forward here tonight at Oran Park.
Well, you can see that the nature of the grid is that it's all the way at the far back side of the main straight. So you have a long run towards the kink of turn 1 and then the tight turn 2, and there is pit entry. It's about where 8th place is on the grid, a break in the concrete wall around this bowl of the far side of the racetrack. So without compulsory pit stops, there is no pit window within to serve them. As soon as you can get to the lane, then you might think about getting that fuel in to get to the end of this 150k race. Everyone's starting with just 50 litres on board, is not a whole lot, but then from the minute that green flag waves, any stop would get you to the end.
Well, Nathan Vera making a point in the chat saying split 1 drivers pitted off the starting grid, so I suppose there's a strategy there for the top level that they wanted to try and pull off as well. We have had our opinion from the chat. Can Hall make it 2 in a row, or will Clifton rise up to take his second win, or possibly will a surprise challenger approach and we get a different winner today? 46% of the votes going towards that surprise challenger, so not anticipating a second win for Stuart Hall or for Mick Clifton today. Clifton has had 2 race wins, but that was back at the sprint round at Winton, so he's had a round win to his name, as has Hall last time out at the Bend as well. 36% though think that Hall just edges Clifton today towards that second win, but majority feeling that a different winner is going to come out of today's race. And I think if anyone could possibly do it, we look to a guy like Scott McKenzie, we look to a guy like Rick Viger or Dave Duddle. Those guys proven race winners. Even a Chad Viger could rise up the order today and put himself in a race-winning position as well. Drivers have got around about 10 seconds on the gantry before they get to green flag running here at Oran Park. It has been 23 seasons, I'll correct myself, 23 seasons since we last ran here back in season 6. There was no word of 200 drivers or 4 splits, but this time we get to do it in modern Gen 3 supercars machinery. It's green flag at Oran Park, and it is a great start for Scott McKenzie off the start line. A horrid start for the pole sitter, Stuart Hall, who might drop 2 spots into war turn 1 as the Kiwi Tony Chapman goes up the inside. It's McKenzie to Chapman to the top 2. Hall drops back to P3. One of the Vigans is off the road. That was Chad Viger back there off at turn 1. He will be traversing across the circuit at turn 2, but there's already some carnage as cars further back have been caught up under the bridge as well. Unbelievable as Blanchard and Duggan off the road at the exit of turn 2.
It's a big pinch point at turn 2, and it's a big pinch point underneath that bridge because the tyre barriers have got to squeeze in to direct everyone between the concrete buttresses, and it's short gear stacks for a short racetrack here. So the cars really rev up quick off that standing start.
Well, we can see it was a hot start for Mackenzie, who'll come around the back end of the circuit with Chapman and Hall in behind him, and the cars in behind just trying to keep themselves in check. A tough start tonight for the likes of Blanchard, Duggan and Kelleher, as Mackenzie will lead us around turn 12 and on to lap 2 of 58. Only 150 kilometres tonight, but safety cars could play a part in making this race feel like it's a 200 to 250 kilometre race. The more laps that we're going slow, but we'll remain green for this one, as Mulford, the first car into pit lane at the end of lap 1, although I think he may have been involved in one of those incidents. There may be a little bit of damage on this car, and that's why he's into pit road this time by.
It's a very slow pit lane at just 50 kilometers an hour, but it's not a long pit lane, so you don't have to wait long to get to your pit crew and then get out there. But the risk at such a short track like this is that a long stop gets close to putting you a whole lap down.
It's very, very close. Similarly to pitting at Sandown, where we'll be next week, and we have seen that be an issue for drivers in the past, where they go only 10 laps into the race, they take their first stop, and all of a sudden they're actually a lap down on the race leader. It could be a very likely scenario here tonight at Oran Park, as long as drivers can keep themselves in check across the race as well. Stuart Hall still running strong in P3 though. He's putting some pressure here on Tony Chapman. It appears that there is some more pace on board this Camaro comparatively to Chapman's Mustang at this stage, as Chad Viger has made a mistake down at the third sector of the circuit as well. He'll drop a few spots in behind Scott Weston. We'll see what happens to him post-race now. Post-race highlight segment as well to catch any of the incidents that we do miss today, as drivers will come past pit lane. They'll trick us into thinking they're coming into pit road, but they're not. They're just crossing the entry line, as Mackenzie still leads us here into turn 3. Good start for him though, up to just over a second ahead of Chapman. There's definitely a pace discrepancy though, I'm seeing already here, David, between Chapman and Hall, from our pole sitter to the person who started at a P3 in terms of Hall versus Chapman here.
Yeah, so not a great initial getaway from Stewie Hall, but then finding the pace now as we settle into the rhythm. And it's this dogleg at turns 10 and 11 coming up, where you're kind of blind going over that crest. You've seen a few drivers cut it. You can either get an incident point very easily, or even a slowdown if you're a bit lazy turning into the right and then you cut too much to the left.
So we can see as well that luckily for Tim Mulford, who took that initial pit stop on lap 1, he has not come out of pit lane a lap down, crucially for him here, David. He has taken a 24-second stop, so he's actually only taken enough fuel that he's actually left himself open for a second stop today. He's not taking a single stop in this race. He looks to be taking 2, so interesting call for him. I suppose that's allowed him to remain on the lead lap and not at the behest of traffic, but it's going to maybe hurt him later on in the race when he does have to traverse for an extra 61-second traversal of pit lane here today out at Oran Park. Hopefully for Mulford, though, it's not going to be a death sentence for him.
And when you're thinking about the pit stop, the pit loss, the traffic, the blue flags, strategically it's a complete inverse to where we were earlier in the season at the Bend GT circuit, where the pit lane transit time is very long and the lap is massive. So if you're up front and you pit, you don't end up in traffic, you end up in a really clean part of the racetrack. Whereas here today, if you're up front and you pit early, you'll either end up in traffic or end up a lap down. So you pit from the front of the field, you end up in traffic. You pit from deep in the field, you end up a lap down.
Oh, speaking of Tim Mulford, he's actually gone off the road at turn 1, and that is a blown engine on board that Phoenix Racing Team car. You see the blinking yellow light off the boot of that 085 machine. That car is off the road in a fairly dangerous position off the exit of turn 1. This could be a very early safety car here, David, knowing of where that car's actually gone off.
Yep, that's the gravel just off track between 1 and 2. You see everyone's touching the concrete curb there as they turn into turn 2. So it's the track out point of the fastest part of the racetrack.
So you see he's still stuck there. He's currently not moving at the moment as the race leaders will come around up towards turn 12. They would have driven straight past him, so they would have seen that he's there. Are they aware, though, that a safety car could get called by race control? And will they then bring themselves into pit lane as they come down the main straightaway? Mackenzie and Chapman will drive on past. Hall will be looking to follow them as well as they enter towards turn number 1. Once again, you can see the car that is still there, and the safety car is beginning to pull out of pit lane. So safety car has been called by race control. We need to watch now for pretty much the whole field to jump into pit lane, David, because it's a free kick to get your car home. If you don't pit now, this will be a nail in the coffin to your race result today.
So often we talk about the advantage that new tyres can give you in this car, but Oran Park is not some of the other circuits that we've gone to or will go to. It's so much more like Long Beach or Detroit Belle Isle or one of those other places where you just want to preserve your track positions. So you get an opportunity here to take your pit stop that will be able to take you to the end and not need to take a green flag stop. You kind of just got to take it and back yourself to preserve the tyres.
You've got to do it. You've got to come into pit lane. Will Mackenzie come in? Crucially, no. He has stayed out. Chapman has stayed out as well. Hall has come straight into pit lane. That is a huge mistake from the top two in Mackenzie and Chapman. And that's arguably, at this point, very arguably, because we know it can be chaotic here at Oran Park, that could have arguably thrown away the race win for either of those drivers here today, David.
Yeah, a real split in the strategy with an early safety car in the race. Mackenzie, Chapman, Dave Arney staying out, but Stewie Hall, Rick Vigor, David Zuddle coming in. All of them just beginning to hit their pit stalls, and it'll be a crowded pit lane. There are so many shared pit stalls once you're past 20 drivers here at Oran Park.
That's very, very true. So hopefully they've smartened up and they'll get themselves out of pit lane quickly. But top half of the field have stayed out. The bottom half, the bottom 15 have all come into pit lane. We'll see. There is a chance, though, that these guys will decide, well, we could come in at this point. We haven't actually caught the safety car train yet, which actually now they have. So if they were to dive in, David, they've got to dive in right now. So if you're Mackenzie, you've taken a lap, really, where you've been able to push pretty much the whole way. You may as well come into pit lane now. If you don't come in now, this is really throwing it away, and it doesn't look like he is. You have to question the strategy, because at least for guys like Callahan, Verben, Clifton, Toth, they'll get away with this because they've had a full lap of push pretty much all the way up to turn 12. They're not actually going to lose out that much comparatively to those guys that are still sticking to this strategy and staying out right now.
Yeah, it's about 30 to 33 second pit stops. You see everyone's looking for where their crew is in the lane to get their pit stops underway. So Mackenzie does stay out. They did catch that safety car in the dogleg and sort of back off the pace from there. Short stop of just 18 seconds from Roy Clark.
Yeah.
But then behind him, Rick Vigor is looking like the next highest placed driver who's fueled to get to the end.
So obviously then that tells me that Roy's going for a two-stopper today. I then question, has he actually read the SIMRIGs? Because Darryl Callahan's in a similar boat, 21.5 seconds for him. So both of these guys at max can probably go to around about lap 48 in this race now on this fuel, maybe slightly earlier. But the question then becomes, have they read the SIMRIGs, and are they aware that it's actually a 0 CPS race? Because if they think it's a 2 CPS race, well then fine, that's fair, that's what they think. But ultimately that's what it's not. It's a 0 CPS race, meaning you can do it in one stop. You may as well take that one stop instead. That means that the corrected race leader right now is this man right here, Rick Vigor, who has offset his field enough to cover a safety car and has offset it better than what would have been the race leader in Stuart Hall comparatively through pit lane.
Early safety car means there's basically no one a lap down that needs to get waved around at this point. In other circumstances, it would be so easy to be off the lead lap here at Oran Park. Lap time's just over a minute. Track underneath 3 kilometres.
We are back to green flag running. Once again, it's a short safety car period, but one that brings us back to green in the entry towards turn 1. So Mackenzie leads the way, but has he thrown away the key to a race win, knowing that he has not taken his one crucial pit stop today? He needs this race now to stay green. He needs this car to be running until the mid-lap 20s, roughly lap 25, and just hope that he can build up 61 seconds worth of gap back to Stuart Hall and Rick Viger to maintain the race lead in this one. These two are the corrected top two, knowing that Callahan and Clark need that second pit stop. But 61 seconds is the crucial time. But really, David, that means that Scott McKenzie has to lap at 3 seconds a lap faster than Hall or Viger. It ain't going to happen in the span of 14 laps. They're nowhere near he can get far enough along. And even on fresh tyres, they're not going to give him that much of an advantage compared to Hall and Viger with their track positioning.
Well, what he needs is field spread, then to pit back into the top half of the field, and then have another safety car compress the time loss so that then he restarts with the opportunity to gain some positions. That's really the only thing that could help from here. And Stewie Hall, after that poor getaway from the standing start, is now suddenly back into a significantly better position just behind Viger.
Team sitting strongly here in what is currently P14, but corrected P2 on the road. They're dealing with some lap traffic at the moment of Peter Kelleher, who's just trying to stay out of the way as best he can from these drivers who are now a lap ahead of him. So there was no wave arounds during that process of pit lane. And actually, Chris Blanchard had the longest stop. So did Paul Burns. Both of them having over 40 seconds pit lane. Have to wonder if there were some black flags on board those cars, and that's why they've taken so long down pit road. Otherwise, it could have just been maybe saving the fast repairs, taking some optional repairs in pit lane to keep themselves in line and in check throughout the rest of this race, as well. As Mackenzie will lead us across the line onto lap 11 at this stage. We've still got some hot battling throughout the field as Andrew Galley puts some pressure on Matthew Monday here as well. But this could be a good opportunity for Andrew Galley to continue the run of performances he's been having. Some top 10 finishes this season. Might be looking to have another one at this stage of the season.
Yeah, so you're braking and turning through turn 1, tightens up in turn 2, flick to the other side of the racetrack for a long series and sequence of right-handers at 3, 4, up the hill, over the bridge, and then thereafter. So you're still turning in the acceleration zone from this corner here. Makes it very challenging and blind-ish as you're heading up the hill and then to the bridge. And then reverse of the dogleg, the track sort of drops away between the two apexes here. You got the next left-hander, and then you rise up over the crest at the dogleg to set yourself up into the long final corner, where the track out point is the concrete wall and really makes it feel like a street circuit through this part. Well, it's streets now.
Well, streets and houses now, isn't it, David? And we saw before just the run-in towards the braking zone of turn 9. That's one of the hardest spots to avoid a off-track here this evening as well. You can see that right now Mick Clifton, wow, what a lifeline he's been given today. He started out of P14, and at this stage of the race, David, he is corrected P6 on the road, only 4 positions back from Stuart Hall. That's a lot better than the 13 that it was off the race start. Could get past Andrew Galley here up towards turn 4 though, and drop that number even more as Clifton will come on through, uses the lap traffic of Kelleher to his advantage, and now sits corrected P5 in the standings. What a great race start and strategy call for Mick Clifton tonight, with a little bit of luck involved as well, as that was Scott Weston off the road, off the bridge. So Weston in the EW team machine goes off, but the lifeline that Mick Clifton got given today from the poor strategy call of the front runners, he needs to maximise this now, and if he can, get the Abbey and Timber Mustang onto the podium.
Yeah, a really good move to get to the inside of turn 3, because the next 5 corners are all right-handers and they're tight, so you gain so much from being on the inside there. Great work to make a move, one of the very few other places that you can look to make a serious and well-considered, balanced move here that's not just suicidal or manic.
Right off the board of Matt Monday at the moment, under pressure from Clifton up towards turn 3, and we know that Clifton's been strong ever since that inaugural race win back at Winton in the early part of the season in the first race of that sprint round, and then took the double win that day at Winton as well. It's a very strong performance for himself, and trying to follow in the footsteps of his very successful teammate Wayne Walker, obviously multiple time split one champion now to this stage, and it's been winning ways this weekend for this team. Obviously, Brad Hayes took the race win yesterday in split 3 for Accelerate Sim Racing, and, well, Wayne Walker appears to be training this team to get back to their top-end performances of the Type N esports of old before this team broke away alongside EWR back in the early portion of the early teen seasons of the Gen 2 era of V8 Veterans. As up ahead, Brett Taylor has run it wide. Speaking of EWT, he's run it wide down at turn 2. Not the moment that he would have wanted. He'll have to try and reset this thing now as Roy Clark comes past him, but there's been a lot of success for Accelerate Sim Racing, knowing that they're only a team that's been around for roughly, I want to say about 10 to 12 seasons, David. A lot of success, though, thanks to Wayne Walker, has come out of their Split 1 runs, but they haven't quite been able to match it back in Split 2, Split 3, or Split 4 compared to their top-end level of Wayne Walker himself.
How embarrassing, only successful in Split 1.
I
Their
know.
lobster too buttery, their cake too delicious and chocolatey.
I say that as a team owner of a team who's never won Split 1 but has won every other split. So it's, I would love to win Split 1 at some point, but if they can win Split 2 with Mick Clifton this season...
You'd trade it all in tomorrow, wouldn't you?
That's up to the drivers who won it, not me. That's up to them. If they wanted to trade in their lowest split championship for a Split 1 championship, I would not be opposed, but that's their choice if they wanted to do that. But
it's would you rather a silver medal in the 100 meters or a gold medal in the 4x100? I'll take the gold medal in the 4x100.
Yeah, I suppose it'd be nice, wouldn't it? Although the team has had 5 championships to this point, second of all time behind Jeremy McKnight's former team when he won his first 6 championships before joining Fisher Motorsports, but still, he's not been quite back to the years of success. Maybe the McKnight calendar of next season could be the answer to getting Jamie back to winning ways and back to his top-end talent in the Split 1 of the V8 Vets as well. Front 2 drivers have still not come into pit road just yet, but this may answer the call for them. Peter Callagher is on the embankment down at the bridge, and the 023 Synergy Sim Racing car may be the answer for those drivers, because this, more than likely, David, is going to be a safety car, because that car is not going anywhere. It's in a somewhat of a dangerous position, I would argue, but not in the position, and I think he might actually be beached on the concrete that's actually off the exit of the bridge there, so that car might need a crane to get out of turn 2.
It's a Ford Mustang, so it's not the Chevrolet Vertipack, but it's almost nose above tail in a very awkward spot. You see, underneath and over the top of the bridge is one of the places where the track feels at its narrowest because of the bridge and the concrete buttress, and so easily you end up in a compromised position with just a little mistake. Turn 2 is so challenging.
Very, very well is, and something that could catch out a lot more drivers as the safety car is on the road, so the front runners will come in now to this stage smartly. They will come in at this point of the race. The safety car gets taken out there. Oh, this is... Okay, so we may have just seen the next piece of strategy blunder. Roy Clark has not come in for his second stop. He's opted to stay out and hold track position. Same for Darryl Callahan. I don't necessarily agree with this strategy, David. I think they actually would have been better off taking that second stop now, giving up the time to this point and pushing on throughout the rest of this race.
Well, you start the race with 50 litres of fuel in the tank, but it's not because you've got a 50-litre tank. You've got the full size of fuel tank available to you. So at any point, there's room to fit in your lunch to take you home. And so they could have taken more earlier. They could have stopped now, but they've not done so. And it cycles Rick Weiger up into 3rd, Stewie Hall up into 4th, David Zuddell up into 5th, but that's net 1st, 2nd and 3rd. At this point, with still a long way to go in time and in laps.
Oh, there's an issue here at the end of pit lane. Dave Arney, I think, believes that the pit lane exit is closed, and that's holding up 5 cars. But the important piece of information here is, David, the pit lane exit should only be closed if the safety car train is driving past the pit exit. The safety car train isn't, though. It's driving through turn 3. And in fact, there is no train because the safety car's not actually picked up the race leader yet. I don't think that's... I don't know if that's necessarily been called correctly, has it? Based on what the rules should be for safety car procedure?
It's a safety car train replacement bus.
Apparently. You got to feel for them, though, because that has cost them a heap of positions. Hedesheed, Corfidis, Favero, Chapman, Arnie, they've all come out of pit lane. It's a very interesting call by race control to have closed it, but I'm not sure. I mean, it's based on how we've heard it before. The train, as it passes the straight, is what closes the pit exit, not necessarily just coming past, not just cars coming by. That's not normally what it is.
Now we do have a field compressing behind the Project Fade streetwear safety car. Roy Clark and Daryl Callahan, who've had one stop, but a quick stop. Rick Vigo, who we think has the fuel to get to the end. Stewie Hall and David Duddle behind him. Matt Monday and Mick Clifton. Plenty of fuel for Andrew Galley and Hallel Caesar as well. Some slight difference in how much everyone's taken, and they will have saved some with that first safety car, and now with this second safety car too.
That's exactly right. And yeah, I mean, Clark and Callahan, they had a free kick to get their second stop underway. This is one that they'll be regretting and probably kicking themselves for not taking the pit stop here for this second time. They needed their second stop to get these cars home, but maybe they're hoping they were going to save enough fuel through enough safety cars they would get home, David. But the difficulty is they need 10 laps worth of fuel to get these cars home. That's roughly 5 to 6 safety cars they would need to offset their fuel enough to get them home with only 58 laps. And with their length of that they can go only 48 laps, that will require a hell of a lot of incidents for these cars to get to the end.
Yeah, and because we're racing to a distance, not a time, a safety car saves you less fuel. If this were a 90-minute race, for example, the safety car would eat a lot of time off the clock.
It would.
But in this case, in a distance race, the safety car really only eats, 1 or 1.5 laps of distance fuel-wise off the clock. So that's the difference when you're going to a distance race or a timed race, is how much fuel you save with a safety car. It's a lot more in like a timed sports car race than it is in one of these lap certain races.
Well, we knew that was going to be the case back at Winton when we had the sprint round of course with those timed races, that if a safety car was called, it was probably going to cost us 10 minutes of racing, which then offset your fuel enough. It appears here that race control wanted to... I think they actually wanted to get the safety car in a pit lane this lap, but they've realised they actually need to do waiver rounds, or at least cleansing the field, not necessarily having to do waiver rounds here at Oran Park. It gives them the option. They can either wave the cars past the train, or they can put them to the back of the train, hence being it titled cleansing of the field and decontaminating it. And I think this is the fairest way, is you either put them to the back of the field or you just let them come past, because ultimately you don't want to have lap traffic hindering those who could possibly be in the race lead, i.e. Rick Viger, Stuart Hall, David Duddle, who were dealing with the lap traffic of Paul Burns and Chris Blanchard. You want to get them out of there and out of the way and not hindering those drivers in trying to get themselves to a race win. You also don't want to be hindering the midfield, because dealing with lap traffic in the midfield is very, very difficult. And it's something that we often see, David, through not only in single make series like this with the supercars, where it's 2 cars of one category, but also multi-class racing. Often it can lead to more chaos than you're actually trying to prevent.
Yeah, so there was... Okay, I held my breath for a second there. Just 21 cars on the lead lap. So I think some will get that back at this occasion. That looks like waiver rounds going past Roy Clark and Daryl Callahan. Certainly makes sense if there were at least 5 or 6 cars, maybe up to 10 almost, circulating that were off that lead lap. and a whole bunch get waved around at this opportunity.
Well, they finally have been let past. We're going to do, I believe... no, Rick, it was not a car passing on a safety car. It was the cars getting their lap back, I believe, for their wave around. We have had Mr. McLeod join us just quickly, and I know it is obviously a short lap around here, Bruce. And we are going one more lap under the safety car. There was some radio confusion that we had.
This is the exact problem. Hello, David. Hello, Hamish. Just thought I'd jump in while we're watching. Great broadcast, by the way. A couple of things. This particular, because this track is so short, it makes the safety car operations, all aspects of it, super, super challenging. For example, the opening and closing a pit lane based on our track maps that we have available, there was a massive queue going past. So while it looks different on the broadcast, remember we're looking at track maps and things like that and looking at data. But based on what we had available, we made the right calls, and I would make them again. As always, we don't want to impact drivers and racers if we can avoid it. But unfortunately, that just happens in tracks like this. The other thing, too, is a 32-second transit time with the 30-second fill. So pretty much if you go in pit lane anywhere, but at this, at the exact time at the start of the lap time, you're going to get impacted in some way, shape, or form, which makes it particularly difficult.
Of course it does. It is a long pit lane, of course, and I suppose it's, we're able to question it looking from outside and thinking about what regular rulings should be as well. But, I suppose it'll be a similar scenario to Sandown next week, where it's a similar lap time, similar fuel and run through pit lane. So that'll obviously be a scenario that we may face with some drivers who decide to fill next week up at Sandown. But
absolutely. With that, I'm going to let you go because it looks like Mr. Roy Clark has control of the field and is about to get us racing again.
He does indeed. Thanks so much, Bruce. Appreciate your time. As we'll get back to green flag running here, David, and we'll see what these drivers do. But ultimately, we know that Clark and Callaghan are going to be down the order. I think now their only option is to go long, really. They've got to hope this thing stays green. They've got to go to the extent of their tank and hope, pray they can build up enough gap that they don't hinder themselves too hard. As Roy Clark will come around the final corner, he'll get us back to green flag running as we scream our way down the main straight once again towards turn one once more here at Oran Park, as Clark will lead us through into the braking zone at turn two, builds a good gap back to Callaghan at this stage. Oh, but he's run it wide off into the sand. A massive mistake for Roy Clark. Callaghan will now take the race lead, and all of a sudden, David, it comes crashing and burning around one formerly known as Crash Roy Clark.
Deceptively difficult braking zone into turn two there, because you're taking your downshifts as the car is massively loaded through turn one, and then trying to pull it up for turn two, but you can be sideways and out of control as you arrive into that braking zone. And he's arrived at a different speed than you might have practiced, misjudged where that braking zone is, and it puts Darryl Callaghan into the lead of the race. Rick Viger up in a very promising second place, but you've had, through all of this, some really big position gainers like Matt Monday up 16, Roy Clark's up 16, Hillel Caesar is up 16, and Ernie Toth's up 17. So those are drivers who've read the tea leaves perfectly and made gigantic gains.
Well, this could be a strong performance for some teams on the road today. Galley and Duddle can make it a double top 5 for Shadow Racing. Cesar and Hall could make it a double top 5 for Infinity Motorsport as well. And the Viger brothers can make it a double top 10 for Angry Birds Racing as well. So there's good opportunity here for the teams to provide us with some good team performances here tonight. We'll see who is able to rise to the top here. But Callaghan appears to be struggling. Now, his tyres obviously are just as old as what Viger and Halls are, and he has a much lighter race car, which means he can run at a slightly faster pace than them, but ultimately he hasn't got the legs that they do. He can't go as long. This car can only go as far as lap 48 to lap 50 in this race based on his fuel save. So for M1 News Cars and M1 Racing, Darryl Callaghan has got to try and build some gap, because he's got to try and offset his pit stop enough that he at least comes out inside of the top 20 here at Oran Park.
So at full racing pace once again, fastest driver on this lap so far, Andrew Galley, and then Chad Vigar comes and takes that away. Rick sitting in second place at the moment. Needs to remain calm at this point, based on the way the strategy sits. Fair bit of gravel in turn 2. Can take a while to clear when someone else goes off and then drags it back across and dirties up the racetrack.
Well, it's going to be a point of possible contention tonight, that exit of turn 2, and we know that there have been multiple cars taken off the road there, which means gravel gets dragged onto the racing surface, and when a car is under load or it comes off load on the exit, as how it does at turn 2 here for the Gen 3 supercar, that can often create some dramas. It's a similar case off the exit here at turn 9, or even off the exit of the dogleg up here through turn 11 as well. So catching gravel at the wrong time or possibly a wrong blip of the throttle, that can be a key factor in leading to a car going off the road. The reason that gravel can be dangerous off the exit of turn 2 is, well, if you get it loose, you can either end up on the embankment, as we saw Peter Kelleher earlier on, or possibly worse, you can end up in the concrete wall with a broken car, not going anywhere in what is truly a tunnel off the exit of turn 2.
Top 7 close together here. A little bit of space to 8th place, Roy Clark. Seeing Scott McKenzie making a couple of moves through the field, I think. Yeah, just got past Michael Quain.
See, he's got roughly 10 lap newer tyres, but although based on how long we were under safety car in the initial run through, we maybe argue it's only 8 lap newer tyres in comparison to those front runners who weren't running at full pace when they first put that set on back at lap 6. But Mackenzie has got some work to do. He's kind of in the opposite boat to Roy Clark and Darryl Callahan. He wants a lot of safety cars now to keep himself close to the cars around him, with the ability of holding on to this tyre set for the rest of this race and putting some pressure on the likes of Toth or Vigo if he can chase him down as well. So the night's not over just yet for the Kiwi that managed to take the race lead off the start line, but ultimately he's going to need a little bit of luck now to get this car back up inside the top 10.
Tracking towards the top 10 is no disaster though, based off all of that. Holding 3rd gear in turn 2. They are very short gears as well, so easy to spin up the rear tyres, even more so than at other setups at other tracks.
Of course, it's got to be short, sharp, pointy to get yourself the power down here at Oran Park. They rise up over the bridge, the famous bridge crossing, of course. It's probably the one point of this track I think everyone remembers most, David. I remember playing the old, what would internationally be known as the Toka Race Driver games, although here in Australia, of course, it was V8 Supercars Race Driver or V8 Supercars 2 and 3. And the thing that I always remembered about Oran Park, and it was a reason why it was a favourite of mine to drive, was the figure 8, and it was the bridge. I used to love jumping up and over on those old PlayStation 2 variant of the Toka games, and this was always a fun track to drive, and it is so amazing that we have it in a Vets calendar for at least this season. Again, I hope it's not the last time we see it. Of course, we can see there's more gravel that's been taken down there at turn 2, but a massive mistake! The corrected race leader, Rick Viger, has gotten it loose off the gravel at turn 2, and that car is not going anywhere anytime soon as he waits for the traffic to come past. And it's a real shame for him as Todd Duggan does the same thing on that run by, but saved by the tyre bundle. If that wasn't there, he was going to T-bone that Kumo Tyres Mustang of Rick Viger off the exit of turn 2, but heartbreak for Rick as he's ended up in the wall on the underside of the bridge.
It's already so easy to spin up the rear tyres with the short gears out of the tight corners, and then you add the gravel to it. And you can see how a couple of drivers have done that. Monday, I said he was so far up, positions gained, but now they all come tumbling back down again with this error. That's off of
that's just before
7
turn,
and 8.
Yeah, just before turn 9, and the rejoin there, catching out Peter Kelleher as well, not what he would have wanted, but Darryl Callahan, our race leader, running strong at this stage, although he does need another stop. So the corrected leader is our most previous race winner, Stuart Hall, who waited so long for his very first Vets win. Got it last time out at Shell V-Power Motorsports Park. Tonight could get himself his second race win here in V8 Veterans. And the fact that he waited so long for his first Well, it's quite ironic he doesn't have to wait nearly as long for his second if he can hang on to it here today.
Now that we've had 2 safety cars, those that have pitted after that point, you can see Scott McKenzie's taken 27 seconds of fuel, Andrew Listener's taken 27. Those who pitted earlier, before they knew that there was going to be 2 safety cars, took sort of 30 to 32 seconds of fuel. So Daryl Callahan's 22 seconds of fuel still is very much on the short side, but it doesn't look quite as bad as it did before safety car number 2.
So right now, projected, he is looking like he's going to be exiting pit lane in P26. Now that's if he were to pit on this lap and exit pit lane on this lap. If he goes as far as he does on lap 48, let's say he builds up another 10 seconds on that run to lap 48, he's only going to come out roughly P20. So for Daryl, he's got to try and find some pace if he can. He's going to try and run that pace if he can as well. Ultimately, though, there's going to be a point that he may need to decide, I've just got to come in and then I've got to try and push on fresh tyres. And it may actually be better for him to pit earlier than what he needs to for fuel and just commit to the green flag stop, because at least then he can run on green tyres, David. And if a safety car comes, he'll get compressed within the field, but he'll be on a fresh set and fast green tyres on board this Mustang. It may be the strategy he has to play just to get something in terms of a top 20 finish here tonight out at Oran Park.
All looking very positive for Stewie Hall, David Duddle, and Mick Clifton at this stage. Because it was a poor getaway off the race start for Stewie Hall, but then it's opened back up for him on strategy and others' mistakes.
It really has, as that was Scott Weston with another mistake down at turn 12. Now, unfortunately for Mick Clifton, if he hadn't have won Driver of the Day already this season, he could have won it today. Because based on this, what a strategy play. This is going to get him up to P3. A phenomenal drive from Mick thus far. And we don't give it twice to someone in a season, so he can't win it again. But I think if he finishes this car in P3, David, he'd be a very high honourable mention for it, being that he is ineligible. Same thing could be said for Stuart Hall if he does win today as well. But right now, at the halfway point of the race, I mean, there are some drivers we look to and we think, you're currently a front runner for me as a driver of the day prospect. The names like Dave Duddle, Andrew Galley, even Halil Cesar, former champion here in Split 2, who hasn't been up at the level that he previously has been at, to return to form tonight, to currently be gaining 17 positions. At a maximum, will be gaining 19 when he gets to corrected order P5. He's sitting in a very comfortable position right now and is having a fantastic race aboard his number 5 Infinity Motorsports Mustang.
So, a couple of S's, a bridge and a figure 8 layout. They're calling it the Suzuka Circuit of southwestern Sydney.
Who has said these things, David, and why are they right?
Oh, people, they're saying it. I hear it on the wind.
Is it also because this was the home of the Sydney Drift Club at one stage, and Japan is known for drifting as well? Is that another correlation of these?
We're a little short on. We're short on bento boxes and cherry blossoms, but other than that, this is basically Suzuka Circuit.
I'm sure there is a rusted 180SX in some garage here in Oran Park. I'm sure of it. You know, it'll really get us closer to Suzuka. What does that make Sandown next week then? If this is Suzuka, does that make Sandown Fuji since it has 2 really long straights? Very good.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, fantastic. Halil says there we saw him just getting loose off of turn 12. Getting put under pressure here from Abel Verben. We only had 4 former champions in Split 2 this season, Cesar being one of them alongside Steve Grumley and Todd Duggan, as well as the former 2-time champion Matthew Scholes, none of them of which look likely to take home another championship this season. It means that we look to be going another season without a 3-time champion here in Split 2. Another season with only 2 two-time champions as well. Another rare occurrence here. We saw it for a few weeks. Both the Viger brothers running together, although Rick at the moment is a lap down on his brother Chad. But it's always great to see both Vigors on track at the same time, because there were theories at one stage, David, that it was just the same person running under 2 aliases in one season.
Yeah, there you go. I encountered this before. You ask yourself, brothers, father, son, partners, what's the go? But yeah, certainly a lot of brothers in sim racing across different leagues. Great to see it. My brother can't drive for stuff, so you'd never catch me and him in the same race or the same split.
Well, I don't have my half brother doesn't race, so I don't even need to worry about him too much. But my father does. He races in Split 3 of Vets. As Brett Taylor has had a moment with Scott McCune down at turn 2. So both those cars get themselves restarted here as well. We're on to lap 33 of 58. Stuart Hall corrected race leader. Probably only about 15 laps away from taking the race lead when Callaghan inevitably comes down pit road once again. So all Hall has to worry about is the car directly behind him, the Shadow Racing Mustang of David Duddle. If he can hold him off for the next 25 laps, he'll be a 2-time winner in Vets and a 2-time winner this season, to match the previous results of Mick Clifton, and 3-time race winner this season, Stephen Kokoschke, to join the multiple winners list as well. In terms of round wins, though, he would be one of only a few to take 2 this season. Mick is only a 2-time race winner, a 1-time round winner as well. Field just beginning to spread out here. But as these tyres are starting to degrade here, David, because this is a very important thing, they've obviously pitted very early for tyres. There's a fairly split strategy across the field, of course. 15 drivers came in on that first, well, a bit more than 15 came in on that first pit stop at roughly 6 or 7 for the first safety car. The rest of the field then coming in on that second safety car as well, only 10 laps later. But they haven't actually got a 10-lap advantage on tyres. It probably worked out to around about 8-lap advantage thanks to the safety car period previously. How's this now going to play out, though, for tyre wear? Because the more they push on, the worse the tyres are obviously going to get. They should make it home, but what percentage are they going to be on when they get to the checker flag of this race? That's the real question I'm having to ask here.
Old tyres versus new tyres with this race car, the difference is usually traction out of slow corners. And then what you need after that traction zone is a long straight for the difference to play out. But the only long straight is the front straight here, and it leads into that kinked braking zone at 1 and 2 that makes it difficult to get down the inside, because you need to be all the way alongside before you brake into 1, lightly trail the brake through there and brake heavily into 2. So it needs to be a really big mistake on older tyres from someone else somewhere else around the lap for you to be able to get alongside them and effect a move, because that kink of 1 basically takes away the opportunity to go side by side before the big stop of turn 2. And that's after the long straight of the front straight, where the difference of tyres could make a difference. So it's one of those characteristics of the track there that allows a driver with track position on older tyres to hold on so long as they can drive smoothly.
I wonder how a 300-kilometre race would go here, knowing what effect it can have on tyres, how unfortunately unlucky pit lane can be for some, but also how tight and chaotic this track can be as well. It would be a very interesting prospect. Not one that I don't think many will be willing to tackle, knowing that we barely got a 150k race out of this one this season, but nonetheless, we can see that the drivers, 30 of which who started this race, we've only got 28 remaining to this stage. Matthew Monday and Simon Heddersheet have unfortunately backed out of tonight's event. The top 28 cars remaining still run, as well as Ed Cullen. You see him on the tail there, a safety car driver, not out on track at this stage. We've only had 2 safety cars to this point of the race. We've got 23.5 laps to go, nearly 23 laps to go, as Callaghan will come up towards the final corner. But he is not our corrected race leader. Yes, he sits there at the moment, but he needs a second pit stop to get this M1 Racing Mustang home today. It is Stuart Hall who sits in the corrected race lead, with David Duddle and Mick Clifton inside of the top 3. But the top 10 has begun to spread out as Chad Viger puts the pressure on Abel Verben, all for P8. Can the former race winner and championship contender on board the Kumho Tyres Mustang, can he put the pressure on and get this car up into the top 8 today to make it a 7th Mustang inside of the top 8 cars on the road. Could be a good result for him if he can get this done.
That's what I was talking about. You could see the brake lights going off and on as they went through turn 1 and then slowing up for turn 2. So you're kind of on the limit in all directions there, and it makes it a bit of a squeeze pinch point that makes overtaking difficult for Chad.
And I suppose the key factor that they often speak about is if you can hold on to your racing line here and cover your corners, cover your braking zones at key passing opportunities, such as through turn 1 and 2, up through turn 3 and 4, the rest of the lap really, you can actually defend your position quite easily if you can hang on to that racing line and cover the inside of the corners as well. Important factor obviously is that you don't want to go too tight on some parts of the circuit, as that can affect the run out of corners. But that's ultimately your easiest line of defense on a much cooler circuit here at Oran Park. When it's a warmer circuit up at around 40 degrees, more or less want to be concentrating on your corner entry and corner exit speeds, as that is going to be a key factor to defense here at Oran Park.
Yeah, some difference in gear choices from various different drivers through some of the tighter parts, some of them going 2nd gear, some of them going 3rd gear.
Oh, you see as well, Scott McKenzie. He's hungry to get past Ernie Toth here. Toth being the 3rd Shadow Racing car inside of the top 10. McKenzie, though, the Kiwi now to the inside off the exit of the bridge. We saw that this is now going to have to be a comeback drive for him just to get the car back inside of the top 10. Out of the race lead when he made the mistake of not pinning under the initial safety car. And for Toth, he's going to try and hang on to this as hard as possible. 20 laps to go here at Oran Park. 20 laps for Scott McKenzie to put his Mustang back inside of the top 10. Toth, though, is feeling the pressure at this stage from one very fast former split 1, Scott McKenzie.
Yeah, so even if you have a good exit off the final corner, it's tough to get alongside before that apex at 1 that's so fast, and then tightening up through 2, he doesn't get the exit he's looking for, even if he wants to dive down the inside of 3, 4, 5 again.
He's almost going to try and set this up at turn 1, doesn't he, David? Although he's going to try and go for it at 4 again. He doesn't have the run out of the corner. This is almost a section where you've got to set it up almost 3 corners ahead of you, don't you? You've got to try and set up your marker, set up your opportunity to get alongside, and try and do it 3 corners later. I mean, if McKenzie can't get alongside at turn 1, as we mentioned, it's less likely he's going to get this job done at turn 4 when he finally gets there.
There is a world where you can occasionally have a look to the inside of the final corner, turn 12 there. You've got to be really close and committed through the dogleg and see an open window of opportunity. Didn't exist this time around. And there's Toth just sort of half covering turn 1, and that's all you got to do.
It's the easiest line of defense for him as he tries to hang on to the top 10. McKenzie, though, putting all sorts of pressure. No pressure from in behind for him, as Michael Quain sits about 4 seconds back off the tail of the Misfits Mustang. Now down towards turn 4 again, and this time he finally gets it along past and gets the job done. Does Scott McKenzie. Great move for him. I think Toth may have just conceded a little bit there, waiting for another opportunity later in the race, because McKenzie will now look to push on and up towards Chad Weiger, and Toth may use this as a way of actually dragging himself forward and further up into the top 10. As McKenzie now with some great pace on board this car, he'll ride it up the hill through the dogleg. As Toth is actually not really able to hang on to him, so McKenzie proving he's got that pace advantage over the Shadow Racing Camaro in behind. He'll look ahead to Chad Weiger, just up the road from him. Still putting the pressure on Abel Verben at this stage, with Halil Cesar just ahead of them as well. Still waiting on Roy Clark and Darryl Callahan's pit stops tonight to take their cars home, but we can see that Hall and Duddle are just starting to get held up now from Callahan, who may be on the fuel save to extend this car's tank life just that little bit further.
Last lap, and 8.3 from Callahan, 8 flat from Stewie Hall here, as he's kind of caught up and pretty much sitting in this holding pattern behind similar lap times from Duddle. But Clifton, 7.7, so there's a bit of pace to be had out there. Is Callahan giving up about half a second a lap, or is he sort of maxed out at that speed?
We'll see as he crosses the line. It's an 8.19 the last time by Hall with a 7.9, nearly an 8 flat. Duddle was actually slower that lap time by an 8.2, and Clifton with a 7.6 the last time by. So roughly half a second's been gained thanks to Callahan holding up the top 3. That has allowed Clifton
2 laps in a row
catch him now. Yeah,
2 laps in a row, Clifton's the fastest driver on track, and sitting in a sort of provisional podium spot and looking super racy.
He is indeed. It appears that the training with Wayne Walker that we spoke about is starting to come to fruition for the rock star Mick Clifton out there. But ultimately, he's got to try and get past Duddle and Hall. It's one thing to catch them. It's another thing to try and get past. One cool description of this circuit, one thing that I really enjoy is we can be at one part of the track. We can see multiple other parts in the background. I've noticed it a few times as we've come under the bridge. We can see the top of the bridge as we come up towards turn 3, and then as we come up towards turn 8 and 9, you can see across to the first sector as they flow through that section where they would have had the drift club and kart club run out of as well. So it's always a cool spectacle of this circuit, and this is one of a few that if you actually parked at the right spot around here, you could see the whole track, and that's always a cool thing about some of these older circuits like Oran Park and even like Sandown, where we'll be next week for the beginning of the endurance portion of the season, the first of 2 250-kilometre races, of course, David, and for that half-length 500 at Sandown next week, that is going to be a tough one, as Roy Clark and Brett Taylor, 2 of our 3 two-stoppers tonight, have had to commit to their second stops. We're not going to be too far away from Darryl Callahan joining them down pit lane.
Yeah, and you saw there was a couple more witness marks in turn 2 and a little bit more gravel dragged on the track there. So every single lap is potentially a new adventure and a new piece of jeopardy for the race leaders. If someone else unseen to you has been off and dragged gravel on, it can be very, very dangerous.
Indeed, and that's one factor that the drivers will be thinking about. Mick Clifton crosses the line that time by. He isn't the fastest of the top 4 this time, but he'll be happy to sit there for the moment, knowing that he can just hang on to this car, put some pressure on Duddle, maybe able to get past him and up into corrected P2 as well. They've got plenty of gap back to Andrew Galley in P5. 4.6 seconds is their current gap back to him, and then it's a further 4 seconds back to Cesar, who comfortably right now sits in corrected P5 at this stage of the race, with Verben trying to hold off Chad Weiger as best he can. But Cesar is still in that strong position, and really even if something happened to him, should be able to hang on to at the very least P7 here today as well. There's still some tightening battles throughout the back end of the field as Michael Quain. This is that sort of second train that we were mentioning was off the back end of the top 10. Quain, the leader of this one, with Listener, Goosey, Burns, Blanchard, Corfiadis, Arnie. That's where we'll find the majority of our Camaros tonight, actually, with only 3 of them now inside of the top 10, that being Toth, Verben and Hall. The majority of the rest of them are actually in this mid-pack battle, all in a line. We'll get some more Mustangs in behind them as well. And it's quite interesting to see the split of car choice this season across split 2 as well, David. It's slightly favoured towards the Mustang, and apparently the benefit of that Mustang shows a little bit of performance improvement compared to some of those Camaro drivers who may just be struggling for the top end pace of split 2 this season.
When Gen 3 first came out, I think I closed my eyes and picked one, and for some reason I own the Camaro and not the Mustang, and I have no really strong feelings one way or the other, but that's the one that I've got.
I have a personal preference to the look of the Mustang. I think it looks that little bit nicer ultimately.
Is it because it's got a Nolda?
No, it's I don't know what it is.
The Camaro Camaro lacks a Nolder.
Yeah, the one thing I don't like about the Camaro is the front looks too tall. It almost looks too tall in its front end. The Mustang, I think, just looks slightly more aggressive, personally. I don't know this, and I think it's such a vast improvement over the Gen 2 Mustang that the ZB Commodore you could kind of get away with in Gen 2. The Gen 2 Mustang was actually, I find, kind of gross looking. The Gen 3 is such an improvement that I think it trumps the Camaro, just personally for me. I also personally just prefer to paint the Mustang over the Camaro as well. So, but they drive the same. They're the same car pretty much, other than the shell. The only difference being when you drive them, the look out your windscreen is going to be slightly different. That's about it.
I think 888 own both.
They do. They do own both. So they've got obviously some Camaros that they've previously run, and then their Mustangs they run now. But yeah, I'm just a preference to the Mustang personally, but I don't mind either, as Callaghan will finally come into pit lane. So Stuart Hall is 12 laps away from his second race win. He's got to defend Dave Duddle and Mick Clifton for 12 laps. It also means he's 12 laps away from possibly leading the championship. We'll obviously get a much better calling of that leading into Sandown next week when the points are updated, and understanding where Stephen Kokoschki's next worst round is. I believe it was roughly 150 points. So being that there is a 30-point deficit between a 13-point deficit between them, this race win should be enough to give Stuart Hall the championship lead, leading into the endurance portion of the season.
Top three close together, 1 lap down car amongst them here. Then 5 seconds to Andrew Galley, relatively on his own in 4th. Another 5 seconds back to that group being led by Hillel Cesar in 5th. It's up 20 positions. Ernie Toth's up 20 spots. And even after some long stops, Paul Burns, Christopher Blanchard are up some positions in this race. But eventually, it's all come back to Stewie Hall.
Normally, David, we pick 4 drivers to put forward to the chat at the end of our race to determine our driver of the day. There are obviously some ways that we narrow this down. We narrow this down through, drivers who previously won and are no longer eligible. So guys like Stuart Hall, who's already won it this season, Mick Clifton's already won it this season. Guys like that, I think Paul Burns has already won it this season as well. Guys like that are ineligible. And then we try and pick between those that are left. We allow ourselves 2 wild cards of being able to select the race winner twice in a season to go forward as a nominee, because we don't like to pick the race winner because we actually think that's a little bit boring. And we want to shine or highlight those that actually perform quite well outside of winning a race this season as well. Right now for you, knowing that guys such as that Chad Weiger, Stuart Hall, Mick Clifton, Paul Burns, Simon Heddersheed, who's already out of this race. I'm trying to find the final one. I can't remember if I said Mick Clifton as well. Out of those guys who can't win it, right now, who'd be one of your front runners for a nomination today for the Split 2 Driver of the Day? Because my front runner at the moment would be either Hillel Cesar or Andrew Galley. They're both driving incredibly well inside of the top 5.
Yeah, I'd struggle to narrow it down much at this point. And again, you can undo a lot of good work very quickly in a race like this as well. So I hesitate to jump the gun.
That's fair.
Gigantic pack forming 10th to 19th though. And I'm seeing quite a few drivers have had to take drive-throughs as well. So Scott McCune and Scott Weston. Okay, apparently it's Scott's taking drive-throughs at this point.
Yeah, we've previously had the Battle of the Bretts here in Split 2. This season, I believe we had it was like the Scott Spectacular or something. Brett has the name for it. We came up with it. I'll try and get him to remind me next week. But we try and compare those that share a name during the season. We only have 2 Bretts left now. The Brett Horsel's come up to Split 1, but we can compare Scott's this season.
Nothing better than two dudes named Cameron racing against each other. The old dual cam.
Dual cam. Very rare, actually. I don't think I've ever actually called a race with two Camerons in it. So that's a very rare name, I think, in the world of sim racing. At least to get in the same race for my money. But yeah, it's always a fun time. But one thing we are seeing, though, is the split of car choices this season. We know has been strongly mentioned at the fact that the Camaros all running in a line of stern at the moment with their Mustangs either side of them as well. We did get a question, though, is who's going to choose the Supra when it doesn't eventually release here on iRacing. That it's going to be a cool fact too. The fact we'll be back to 3 manufacturers in a sim for the first time since since the last Forza Motorsport title, if you want to call it a sim. You can. It is a game technically, but there are multiple different supercars on it for the one type of series. Or you could possibly just look back to the Gen 1 supercars where you have both the Ford Falcon variants and the VF Commodore as well. But Michael Quain's leading this train at the moment from P10 back. He's having a strong run tonight, actually, up from where his previous average has been, actually. So running top 10 to this stage for Michael Quain is a great showing from the old mate and sons entry on board that Ray White Camaro. Could be one of those drivers who put in for a Driver of the Day nomination here today as well. Abel Verban is doing well just to hold off Chad Viger at this stage. Of course, he's got Bull Cesar just ahead of him, who has now taken P5 on the road off the back of that strategy call to come in under the first safety car. Funnily enough, the only driver who pitted on that second safety car who's inside the top 10 right now, David, Scott McKenzie, who's managed to come back his way inside of the top 10 and up to P8 on the road on board this Misfits Mustang. That is a very lucky break for him. Could have been a hell of a lot worse if that safety car didn't come out.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, that you sometimes can't get your track position back, but you can get, 30 seconds or some time back with that other safety car that did come his way. Then it's opened up a little bit for him. He's made a couple of passes, a few drivers that were in front of him that hadn't pitted or in short fields had to come in. So he's had quite a few laps with some clean air here to close up on the back of the next group, and that's just where he's arriving, and perhaps just in time. Not too many laps left here, but if Chad Viger can't make the move, if Abel Verban can't make the move, Scott McKenzie might also find himself in exactly the same group.
Well, luckily for Chad, he has at least got his brother, who is a lapped car, but can play a little bit of rear gunner for him, maybe just to make Mackenzie's life a little bit harder, although he needs to do it within the rules, of course, once blue flags are shown. He doesn't have too much time to actually really not let him by, so he's got to try and do it within the rule set. Mackenzie is right there, though, to put the pressure on them and make this a 4-car for position battle, 5-car battle if you count Rick Viger, who is that lap down that we mentioned in towards turn 1. Chad Viger running strong at this stage, tucked up right behind Verban into turn 2. We have got 6 laps left to go here at Oran Park. Stuart Hall is 6 laps away from his second race win of the season as Viger tries to set this car up the inside on Verban. He hasn't been willing to go for the move as Abel, and Chad might just be getting frustrated with hanging behind Abel's Camaro just ahead of him. He's got to try and set this move up. It looks to be that turn 4 is the place to do it, but he's got to try and create the opportunity for himself. Who would have thought, though, on lap 1 when he was traversing across the grass at turn 2, that he would have been in this position right now to battle for P5 in this race?
For my money, turn 3 is the best place to make a move. If you can just put some pressure on them in turn 2, get a slightly better drive there to look to the inside of 3, because then it's a continuous sequence of right-handers, and maybe you can seal the deal in the next couple of corners and then over the bridge. But otherwise, yeah, very difficult to make a move at Oran Park. The only thing capable of making moves here was bulldozers.
Well, bulldozers and moving trucks, ultimately. That's the only moves that have been made here in the last 26 years since it was closed, or last 16 years since it was closed, sorry. So it's a shame that it is no longer with us, but I suppose those that live in in that part of in that part of southwest Sydney. I wonder actually if you own a house that crosses where the track was, David, if someone's actually tiled the inside of their house to match the direction of the tarmac, the track would have gone inside their house. Surely no one was that desperate to do something with their house, surely.
You lay down 1 yard of bricks, across your front yard or something, and there were so many sort of like kind of regional, suburban little racetracks around Sydney here, Warwick Farm, Amaroo, etc., and they played such an important role in, the history of Australian touring cars. But when you look at Sydney Motorsport Park compared to here or Amaroo, you go, I think we made an upgrade.
Yeah, ultimately they did when they put the upgrades on at SMP and they decided to make that more of a racing facility than what it was. They definitely have upgraded, ultimately. Although Oran Park still obviously has a special place in some drivers' and fans' hearts, it's at least not lost forever thanks to iRacing, of course, and other sims where it is involved as well. Look at that. Was that the train we were watching before? It is, and it's Paul Burns battling with Andrew Listener. So this train is really heating up, actually, just outside of the top 10. Luckily, got to see it thanks to the camera view that crossed the circuit then. But yeah, ultimately, we did upgrade when we got that upgrade for SMP and then went to drive there on a more regular basis compared to Oran Park here. But I mean, this is still a special place to go racing, David. As you said, it's the Suzuka of Southwest Sydney. I mean, it's figure 8 S's and a bridge. It's absolutely spectacular.
Of course, being Japanese, Suzuka Circuit has a mascot, and that mascot, is not this crasher in the final corner.
Yep, and Darren Goosey has gone off the grass embankment. That car's not going to get up there. Unfortunately for him, he's not on board of a Chevrolet Silverado. It is a Chevrolet Camaro with only rear-wheel drive, and that thing actually may need a tow back to pit lane, David, because I don't think he's going to get the drive out of it up over the embankment down there.
Well, he's partly high-sided. He needed to engage reverse gear. Now it's such a steep hill in that little part of the bowl. It's going to take him forever to get out of there and get it going again. He's not beached, he's not bogged, and he just can't climb that hill.
2 more laps to go for Stuart Hall here in the race lead with Dave Duddle in behind him. Abel Verben is still trying to hold off Chad Weiger for P6, but Weiger out of the inside, got it up the inside at turn 12, gets the move made into turn 1, and will now get 2 laps to attack the top 5 with Halil Cesar just ahead of them. That car to row from them is Darren Goosey, so he did actually get himself going again, but he's gotten going right in front of this battle pack for P5. Will he play a factor? Hopefully not for these drivers' sakes. But for Halil Cesar, he's just going to try and hang on to this top 5 position, being up 19 spots at this stage as they'll get by the lap traffic. And Stuart Hall will come around the final few corners, David, to begin his final lap of Oran Park on board the MPI Camaro.
So part of that previous incident kind of came about, I think, a bit about Andrew Listener saving a lot of fuel, backing that group up, and there was a concertina effect. Stewie Hall is way clear of that. 2.6 kilometers from the white flag to the checkered flag on the final lap at Oran Park.
Not too far away from his second race win in Vets and his second race win this season as well. Can his teammate hang on to this top 5 position that's now being pressured by Chad Weiger in behind him? Up towards turn 3 they go. We know that Weiger's been a man that's hungry to make a move. He's going to try and go for it on the inside. Contacts made though into Cesar. Both cars off the road. Unfortunately for Chad, maybe a bit overzealous. Maybe the frustration of being held up behind Verben for so long. And unfortunately, it's been thrown away in a matter of seconds. That's how quickly it can happen here at Oran Park. But for Stuart Hall, who's got lap traffic of Yusuf Corfidas to deal with, he'll come up towards turn 12 for the final time. As he comes around, he'll hold off David Duddle. He'll make it 2 from 2 here at Oran Park. His second win of the season and his second win in a row.
Duddle just 0.24 of a second behind him. Mick Clifton completing that podium from third position. Rest of the field coming to the checkered flag at the moment. Two drivers with some shorter stops that need to save a little bit at the end here. Perhaps even Scott McKenzie. Similar stop length to Andrew Listener. Two drivers just trying to softly make it to the checkered flag. McKenzie, yeah, did lose just a tiny bit of time at the end there, but kept his 6th position.
And what would have been for Hillel says it would have been a top 5. What a drive for Ernie Toth, up 20 positions tonight. Very easily going to get him a nomination for the chat to vote upon for our Driver of the Day award here today as well. And I think there's one other name we've got to go to, and it's this one right here. He's been very unlucky thus far this season. Hillel says Scott McKenzie, Andrew Galley, and Ernie Toth are going to be your selections for Driver of the Day today. Get your votes into the chat. Let us know who you think it should go to. Stuart Hall, though, is once again a race winner here this season. He waited so long for that first race win, David, to now go on to his second race win, literally the race after he got his first. That's almost got to make the first one a little bit bittersweet, doesn't it? That he waited so long for one, he didn't nearly have to wait as long for a second.
Sometimes it's the pressure we put upon ourselves. So, yeah, I mean, a great result. You'd be kicking yourself earlier in the race, having dropped some positions, but then to just play yourself back in over the long run and the strategy. Fantastic work to take that win for Stewie Hall. Duddle from 6th on the grid to 2nd. Mick Clifton from 15th on the grid to 3rd. Everyone who's on the podium is going to be pretty happy with that.
They will indeed, and they'll be happy with their performances here today. Of course, Andrew Galley, Abel Verbin will actually get to the top 5 today off the back of that incident with Chad Varga and Hillel Cesar. McKenzie comes home P6 in a great comeback drive today. Cesar home in P7 ahead of Varga. Toth comes home P9, up 20 positions to Michael Quain inside of the top 10. Paul Burns will finish ahead of Andrew Listener. Chris Blanchard ahead of Dave Arney and Tony Chapman for the top 15. Mario Reale comes home ahead of Nathan Favero, Darryl Callahan, Roy Clark and Todd Duggan for a top 20 finish here today. To the second page, we'll find Brett Taylor ahead of Scott McCune, Yusuf Corfidis, Rick Viger, Darren Goosey, the top 25, ahead of Scott Weston, Tim Mulford, Peter Callahan, Matt Monday, and Simon Hedgesheed will make up the 30-car grid order. Most laps led tonight was Darryl Callahan, who ran that 2-stop strategy. Didn't get himself the finish that he would have hoped for, of course, but did finish inside of the top 20, crucially for him, so that worked out well for Darryl at the very least, finishing P18 today. Ernie Toth was the hard charger, up 20 positions. Tony Chapman with the fastest lap of the race, and Stuart Hall will take home 2 bonus points for pole position and for leading a lap as well. The drive of the day has been decided by the chat here as going the way of Ernie Toth with his 20 positions gained here today in what was a phenomenal drive for him. So we'll get the screenshot ready to send off to Mr. Reg James for what was a fantastic result here for Ernie. And a massive congratulations as well for this Driver of the Day award for him. David, we've got only a few things to go through now. At this stage, we haven't got anyone waiting in the wings to come and have a chat to us post-race in terms of podium finishes. Unfortunately, that can often be the case here on Saturday nights. Everyone gets a little bit too excited off the back of their race result here on a Saturday. But the other thing we get to go through is the post-race highlights to watch through some of the incidents that we may have missed here today for round 7 out at Oran Park. It's often an exciting time at the end of the race to see where everybody ended up and how some things actually came about, especially some of those incidents that actually led us to having our safety cars here today as well. As I'm just trying to find, crucially, the green flag dropping here today, because unfortunately I've actually got the all the issues with drivers coming past pit lane here at Oran Park. It actually creates entering and leaving pit lane markers, which are not true because they don't even enter or leave pit lane. They just traverse past it. So for your post-race highlights, these are some of the things that happened here today. A horrid race start for Stuart Hall meant that Scott McKenzie was able to rocket away straight into the race lead, although a moment for Rick Viger saw him get into some early dramas. I believe it was Rick. No, it wasn't. It was actually Chad who was in the early dramas, and that was where the damage came for Tim Mulford. And we saw Chad traversing across the grass there. Who would have thought, though, so many laps later that he would have been right behind P5 at the very end there. We saw the back end of this incident with Todd Duggan and Chris Blanchard off that corner as well, David. Early dramas, turn 1 and turn 2. Can't be too surprised that this actually happened so early on in the race.
It's a continual pinch from turns 1 into turn 2. You go a little bit wide, you're on the grass. You go a little bit shallow, you're on the grass. So you got a couple of cases of cars getting turned around, some skipping the grass, some having to slow up just a little bit. You got the track on the first lap of the race. That slowdown penalty is doubled and tripled. It's so nasty.
It really is. Paul Burns was one of those drivers involved in this as well. You saw him just trying to pull it up, caught in a 4-wide sandwich nearly. There was a little bit of net code contact as well. That was actually him getting spun round off the apex of turn 2, unfortunately for him. Chad Viger was then in another moment off track as well. This was later on lap 2, just getting it loose and traversing the grass off of turn 9. Very fast moment for him. It can easily happen to any of the drivers out there. Then this was the moment that brought us our first safety car. Tim Mulford into turn 1. Compression locks the rear end, blows the engine. There's the puff of smoke, and off goes the Phoenix Racing Team Mustang in what would bring out our very first appearance of the Project Fade Streetwear safety car here tonight as well. So we would then find ourselves with Mr. Ed Cullen joining us on the circuit after that too. So it was very good to get a safety car nice and early in this race, although it did cause some dramas for some drivers, including a misstep when driving past pit lane, it must be said, David, where Scott McKenzie and Tony Chapman, they didn't get the memo. Everyone else in behind them did, and this arguably cost both of them a chance at a race win.
I'm thinking one step back to Tim Mulford. Now, we've got short gears here. I've often thought that the taller the gear ratio is, the easier it is to blow an engine on downshift. So I think it's actually a decent achievement to be able to do it here. Not something we saw a whole lot of others do, but this strategy call at the first pits, at the first safety car, is absolutely critical. Everyone who's in the lane here right now, these drivers that put themselves in a great position, and those that stayed out, well, it was a little bit costly.
Yeah, it was. This was Scott Weston's moment up at the bridge. We saw the back end of this as well. He was getting into the side of Andrew Galley, and there you see just colliding with the wall, barely avoiding was Halil Cesar, who just stuck to his racing line, and Weston ending up off into the grass as well. Off of that moment, we then had a similar, or not a similar incident, but another incident then involving another EWT car and his teammate Brett Taylor as he was racing with Yusuf Corfiadis. As they ended up towards turn 1, you see the lockup and the car just not wanting to turn. That's the difficulty of such a fast-paced section of this circuit. And ultimately, Brett just unable to pull it up at that stage. And then this was the one that brought out the second safety car. The mounting of the hill for Pete Kelleher gets loose off the curb at turn 2, puts it straight across the concrete wall, and up the hill goes the Synergy Sim Racing Ford Mustang. And if his very successful teammate Jordan Ross had done that in split 1, David, I feel like you may have been pulling out some of your hair in amazement that he's managed to do that.
Yeah, they'll have to put a reserved parking sign on that spot. Synergy Sim Racing only. Minimum 2 hours.
A minimum 2 hours, that's right. Yeah, we saw Dave
Feed the
Arney.
meter.
So this was also then another contentious moment too. Obviously, at the back end of the safety car, whilst it was out there, we can see as well. So to kind of give a bit of meaning to this, so they said that the pit exit was closed. Now, the reason that we were kind of contesting this was the train wasn't actually being held up by the safety car, nor was it being driven past pit exit. It was an open train of cars. We obviously had the explanation from race control that it was a small map they were reading off of, and that's why this was holding these guys up as well. But you got to feel for these drivers, because that ultimately cost them a positive finish here today. out at Oran Park, and one that I'm sure would have taken a little bit of self-reflection off the back of it too. We then got to the restart zone and got to Roy Clark looking to lead us off the line, but unfortunately he led us off the road into the exit of turn 2, and the race lead was not held on to very long for Mr. Clark down there.
No, and again, one of the most challenging braking zones on the lap is 1 into 2 like that.
Well, it was Darren Goosey who did it in sympathy for Clark as well on the exact same lap as him. The next major moment that we really saw, and really it was the last major moment of the whole race, was this one for Rick Viger down at the bridge. Now, I know we saw an incident with his brother late in the race with Halil Cesar, but we actually managed to catch that live on screen, so we won't show that one again. But this was Rick's moment. So we saw the gravel. He catches the gravel with the rear tyre, puts it straight into the wall, and it manages to pull up. And you see that tyre barrier that he's just parking right next to. It's to the right-hand side of his driver's door. You wait here for a little bit longer, and eventually Todd Duggan comes through in the exact same incident, and actually the tyre barrier stops him from T-boning the side of Rick's car. An unfortunate moment, a spot where 3 cars went off in one race, and a spot that ultimately they won't want to be seeing for a long time coming.
There are plenty of circuits where that happens. You know, you spin up and go to the inside of the exit of a corner. There's a special tyre barrier at the Hurry Downs at Road America for exactly that same cause. Drivers go a tiny bit wide, spin up and spear to the inside on the exit, and you've got to protect that part of the racetrack.
You do indeed, and as we look forward to next week's race, I want to thank David for joining me here this evening as well. I'm filling in for Mr. Brett Fisher. Unfortunately, Brett didn't send me the Hype Up song this week, so we won't be indulging in that at the end of this one. I did get a message from Stuart Hall, our race winner. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here in this one. But thank you to you, David. Appreciate it. This is now... Have you now ticked off every single split as Collier? Because I know you've been in the split 4 booth before, split 3, and obviously split 1. I think this is the only time you've ever actually called split 2, so at least you get to tick that box off the list for yourself.
I wouldn't call it commentating on split 3 and 4.
Wow,
I think
yeah,
I've dropped into
conversing about it,
chat and banter.
Yes. But yes, of course, next week, Sandown, that's going to be a special one. 250 kilometres begins our endurance portion of the season for 81 laps. Very exciting for me. It's one of my home circuits. It's the one that I hold very, very close to my heart more than nearly any other. It's always a special time when we get to go down to Springvale and racing around the short and fast Sandown racing circuit.
Great racetrack. When my parents were first married, their first house was in Springvale South and around that parts, and so much history. Great racing track, and lets the cars stretch their legs a little bit, even though it still feels like a short and compact circuit.
That's right. It's one which offers up great racing and great intense racing as well, and one that's often exciting for us to call. It was the home of a championship decider back in season 20 of Split 2, and this season won't be a championship decider, but it will be one that may decide who's going to battle for the championship in the final 2 rounds at Adelaide and at Bathurst the week after as well. Big thank you to David Haines for joining me here this evening as well. And thank you to all of our series sponsors, of course, to SIMRIGS, Logitech G, Paramount this year, Play One, SimGear, Project Fade, Streetwear, LGC Images, and M1 Used Cars for the Driver of the Day award as well, which tonight went the way of one Ernie Toth of Shadow Racing. That's congratulations to him. Next week, it could go to you. Please be sure to help support us at Infinity Broadcasting by clicking the like button and subscribe to the bell icon as well, so you're notified whenever we go racing on the channel. You can also help support the V8 Veterans by clicking the like button and subscribe to the bell icon too on their channel, as well as you can get Split 2, Split 3, and returning next week, the Split 4 Chook Raffle will return on Friday night, as Mr. Van Ree will return to the booth as well for that one. It'll be myself and Brett Fisher back in the booth next week for Sandown on Saturday night, 8:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. You don't want to miss it as we go racing for 250Ks. But I'm Hamish Munro. This has been SIMRIGS V8 Veterans Split 2 action of Season 28, Round 7, live from Oran Park. We'll see you guys next week at Sandown. But until then, stay safe, drive hard, and as always, bye for now.
The Racing Series is a new milestone in Logitech G.
All the great old wheels, the G29, the G920, the G923, they all have their own unique way of connecting to each other, but there's no room for expansion with those products.
So the question arose was, what if we were to give the opportunity for the racer to switch out from a drifting wheel to a GT rim?
With the wheel hubs that we've created, that's got a very specific button set, but you can replace any of the steering wheels.
And the real lovely aspect to this was we could give the user, driver and the racer the opportunity to experience different genres of race.
That allows drivers to craft high quality, customized setups that resonate with your individual racing style.
When we start with the design, we always start sketching. Very often, once we've got sketches, we start discussing with engineering.
We had 3 rounds of engineering testing or user testing where we invited in users from sim racing, and every single round of feedback we refine, the product based on what they tell us.
In the sim racing lab, again, we're going to use data to really analyze what a driver needs. We've used everything from eye tracking to the inputs from the pedals, the inputs from the, let's say, input devices, the wheel and the pedals, the shifter. We're taking that and we're compiling it so that we can build different products based on those individuals' needs for all consumers and all drivers.
I don't know of anyone else in the industry that's actually doing this kind of research into their products to see how their products are affecting performance of their users.
We've built the product to make sure that it's as reliable as possible.
So the innovations in engineering that I'd say we're most proud of is the sequential handbrake and shifter toolless changeover. This is now a patented system, so it's really easy for the user to just switch between modes.
If you give people the tools to do what they want, they will.
They will just go off and have fun.
Hey guys, sorry about the lack of videos lately, but I've been really busy down in Melbourne with SIMRIGS. I've actually built our first rig in Melbourne. It's featuring our new ASR chassis. So basically it's an ASR Pro with a cubic QS210 motion system with a cubic BT1 belt tensioner. I've coupled it with an awesome set of LG ultra wides. What you've seen before, these are the new brackets that I've made for the cubic system to sit through the ASR, and you notice it's really low to the ground. We got it really low to sort of match a real car, like a lot of motion systems sit quite high, and that's really annoying that you need steps to actually get in it. So now I've lowered it down, it's actually really low to the ground. And the awesome thing with cubic is when it sits, it actually sits down like a real lowrider, and it only raises when it comes back and starts moving. Also on this rig, we've got the fantastic SimCube active pedals. Not going to get a better pedal on the market. Couple that with the SimCube Coral. We've given it the whole Porsche livery and the Grid Racing by SimLabs Porsche wheel. So that just ties it all in together. So it's an awesome build. I really love these monitors because of the semicircle. You just look at, you're fully encapsulated. And being ultra wide, yes, they are a little bit narrow, but with the 45 inches, it is taller. It is, I think, about maybe 2 inches higher compared to a 32 monitor. The color that you get out of them is fantastic. Really nice and deep, good blacks, as any OLED should be. That's it, guys. We've got heaps more builds that we're doing at the moment. Our ASR containers arrived, so you'll be seeing them on our website as well. So, till next time.